Come take a trip in my airship. Come take a sail on the sun. Come have a ride around Venus. Come have a spin around Mars. Show us to what why we're busy. Show us to see why we're cool. Come take a trip in my airship and we'll visit the man in the moon.
Greetings, loyal airmen, and welcome to another episode of the Airship 27 podcast, number 86. I'm one of your co-hosts, Captain Ron Fortier, and joining me, as always, is our chief engineer at Hangar 27, Rob Davis. How you doing, amigo?
Doing good. Hello to everyone, and thanks for joining us for episode 86 of the Airship 27 podcast. Now, Ron, you may not know this. There's an interesting little piece of information about the number 86. It's an interesting number. Let me give you some useless information about the number that Mel Brooks and Buck Henry gave to a secret agent, Maxwell Smart. Remember, he was Agent 86? Well, there's a reason they did that. It's kind of an in-joke. I checked Wikipedia to assure my memory about it was correct. 86 is American English slang used to indicate that an item is no longer available, traditionally from food or drinks establishments, or referring to a person or people who are not welcome in the premises. Its etymology is unknown, but seems to have been coined in the 1920s or 30s. The term is now more generally used to mean getting rid of something or someone. In the 1970s, its meaning expanded to refer to murder. According to the online Merriam-Webster dictionary, it means to refuse to serve a customer, to get rid of or throw out someone or something. And according to Cassell's Dictionary of Slang, the meaning expanded during the 1970s to also mean to kill, to murder, to execute judicially. This usage was derived from the slang term used in restaurants. Other slang dictionaries confirmed this definition. I learned it. I was a waiter for about a month for a restaurant, and when they were out of something, they had a chalkboard, and they wrote 86th next to whatever item on the menu was out that night. So that's when I learned that. So when I went back to watching Get Smart, and he was Agent 86, I went, yeah, he's 86, all right. he's not all there. He's not all there. So
fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.
And there's your useless information for this episode.
Well, I mean, what you just described, it's a negative connotation, and I don't know why, but I seem to have in the back of my own old dust-filled noodle here, like a nautical term to the point of deeping something, deep 86.
Deep sixing something. That's I think that has something to do with throwing something at 6 leagues or deeper.
Yeah, right.
So 86 and 6, those might be related, but 86 is definitely means that you're out of something or something needs to go. So but that came to mind when I saw, it's episode 86. Hey, there's some interesting silliness that I can throw out.
Please spoil him and don't deep six us, please.
Although we probably are a little 86th,
And see, on that note, I get to start this month's bad joke.
Oh,
yes, I thought we'd get away with it, but no way.
Darn.
Right. You know what? This one sounds a little familiar to me, but man, if we're recycling these things, mea culpa there, loyal airmen. We're doing the best
we've been doing this 86 episodes. We might repeat ourselves after, because I can't remember everyone we did either. So
no, that's the point. That's what I get. We haven't done this one, but it's like I've heard it before. But let's see what happens.
Yeah, all right.
A husband and a wife who work for the circus go to an adoption agency looking to adopt a child, but the social workers there raise doubts about their suitability. All right. So the couple produces photos of their luxurious 50-foot motorhome, which is clean, well-maintained, equipped with a beautiful nursery that they've added. They can't have
Cool.
children, so desperate to have a child. The social workers are satisfied by this, but then raise concerns about the kind of education a child would receive in this couple's care. Well, the husband puts their mind to ease, saying, "We've arranged for a full-time tutor who will teach the child all the useless subjects along with French, Mandarin, and computer skills." Next,
Wow.
the social worker expresses concern about a child being raised in the circus environment. This time, it's the wife who explains, "Our nanny is a certified expert in pediatric care, welfare, and diet." Social workers are finally satisfied, and so they ask the couple, "So what age are you hoping to adopt?" And the husband says, "It doesn't really matter as long as the kid fits in the canon."
I had no idea where that was going. That's great. I was about to say, can they adopt me? You get to the canon, I don't think so. Oh, that's pretty good. I like that one.
Bad joke. All right.
Oh,
Hey,
right.
Okay, now, if any of you loyal airmen have been keeping tabs on what's
Well, if
been
you're
going
still
on.
here.
Hello? Hey, look. Man, Rob termed it, ages ago when we started this podcast, but independent publishing, small time publishing, like what we do, is really feast or famine. And let me tell you, the last 5-6 days have been feast. I'll let you take this. We've released 3 books, so go ahead and let them know what's out there.
Well, here we go. It's released since our last show, and that was just a month ago. I looked at the date, and it was the 12th of June, or 12th or 13th of June, and here it is, the 12th of July?
Yeah.
So almost exactly a month. So anyway, since then, Bass Reeves, Frontier Marshal Volume 5 has come out from us with stories from Michael Panush, Mel Odom, Gary Phillips, and Thomas McNulty. Yours truly did the interior illustrations, and Warren Montgomery provided the cover. This has quickly become our best-selling series after Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective.
Sure.
Every quarter when I do the books, Bass Reeves is right there near the top. This last time I noticed that Bass Reeves #1 sold quite a few copies. Most of them, I think, in EPUB or Kindle versions, most of them, but still, it's one of our better sellers, right up there, almost some months close to what Sherlock Holmes sells. So it's a very popular series, and we love doing it. He's a great character. He was a great person out of history who was unsung for so many years, but who's suddenly getting a lot of interest lately.
Well, I wanted to say, when you and I first started Airship 27, and before we even started Airship 27, you and I had tripped over some history and found a book about Bass Reeves, and then, brought you on board. And so ultimately, doing these podcasts and publishing this series, it seemed like with each new volume, we're bringing, we're exposing him to a wider audience who are then word of mouth.
Yeah.
But then eventually everything connects, because when I first discovered Bass, I found that one book on Amazon, Rob. Right. You go there now and there's like 15 titles. Okay. Never mind, our four.
And there's a comic book.
Right. Well, let's get to the media. Now, there have been several independent films made. The latest one coming like 2 years ago, which I think was called Hell on the Border, all right, which our late friend Eric Ferguson had reviewed and enjoyed. But we're now getting to the point where he can't be ignored. The characters appeared on television shows and cameos. PBS recently did Around the World in 80 Days, and there was an episode of there's Bass Reeves. Okay. So what most people will already know is that Taylor Sheridan, the guy who created Yellowstone, very popular TV series on Paramount, is now doing a Bass Reeves miniseries. I think it's going to be 8 episodes. It's called 1883 Bass Reeves. All right. He's got an actor picked out. Scripts have been written. He's directing the first 2 episodes. People are really excited. But here's the thing. This is Hollywood, okay? You don't work in a vacuum. So what do I find about a week ago in the Hollywood Reporter? Morgan Freeman, who has been going nuts, and God bless Mr. Freeman, all right?
He's been working on this for how long
years,
now?
almost 50 years trying to get this Bass Reeves project, and HBO bit the bullet because they're seeing what's happening at Paramount. HBO is now got in development a new Bass Reeves series. So again, the topic of starting this podcast, we've now gone from famine to Bass Reeves feast. He's everywhere. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Yep. It's just crazy because they're jumping on our bandwagon because we started theirs.
But I would really like to think that, and of course, all of this feeds off itself. And I would really like to think that once either of those 2 shows eventually airs on television, we're going to see more sales for our titles. Definitely.
Yeah, the actor they picked to play him for the Yellowstone spinoff looks really good. I mean, he's got it in the picture I saw of him. He's got this full beard, so he's going to be able to pull off that mustache really easy. That's the mustache that a lot of the photos.
I'm really anxious to see this. I'm really excited about it. So
I am too. Again, it's feast or famine. Now we're in the famine part, and I love it. It's great. The only thing I wish is they dropped the Lone Ranger Association because it's not necessary. No. I mean, I don't think it's been debunked, but I think it's now part of the legend about Bass Reeves. So I don't think there's any way to stop it. It's going to be there for a while. I think maybe in 20 years when they look back, when all the furor dies down and they look back on it, they go, there really wasn't any connection between the two, and there didn't ever need to be. But right now we're in the middle of it, and everybody thinks that Lone Ranger was inspired.
What I find interesting about that whole myth that took off, okay, and again, this is a subject you and I have talked about at length, was that our good friend Martin Graham actually wrote an essay debunking it, all right? But he debunked it from the right source, and that's what people don't understand, okay? When you create a myth, it's a lie. It's basically a lie. There's no fabrication. There's no reality that you can base a foundation on a myth. All right, it doesn't exist. The only thing you could say is, well, they're Western characters, but that's it. So Martin Graham has spent like the last 15 years of his life researching the Lone Ranger. All right. And last year, after those 15 years, I think you saw when we were at Chicago the year before, I bought the tome. This thing is like
it's huge.
It's over 1,000 pages long. All right. It is the complete history of the radio station, of George Trendle, of Franz Stryker, right? Everything you ever want to know about the Lone Ranger is in this volume. And guess what isn't? There's nothing no Bass Reeves. There's nothing about Bass Reeves.
And the part about it that bothers me the most is, why do we even need that association? What Bass did all by himself without having any association with the Lone Ranger is incredible.
It boggles the mind.
Sorry, the Lone Ranger can't match what Bass Reeves actually did.
That's the point.
And there's little things people, there's coincidences that people bring up as well. That maybe that's how. Well, all that doesn't mean anything in the fact that the guy that created the Lone Ranger probably didn't even know who Bass Reeves was. Totally. Was not even aware of him. So I think that's what you get down to at the very last. And again, I've resigned myself to the fact that people are gonna think it's real. But I am pretty resolved that it's something somebody made up. And okay, I can beat my head against the wall and try and correct it, but why? Let them believe. Let them believe it. It really doesn't hurt anything, but at the same time,
if in the long run, Bass Reeves gets the acclaim that he so richly deserves.
Exactly.
That's what that's about. All right. So
next.
So we get Bass Reeves out, and within 2 days, out comes The Last Days of Poe, a horror novel by R.A. Jones. And it's based on his imagining of the last days of writer Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
He spends in this bizarre setting, which I'm not going to give away spoilers. Returning to Airship 27 after a really long hiatus was our old friend, artist Chuck Wardell, who did an amazing job with the interior illustrations. They're fantastic. And gracing the cover, again, is the unimaginably talented Adam Shaw.
Just incredible work, as usual. He's knocked it out of the park again. Again, in the end credits, stick around for the end credits. I'll show you. I'll put those covers up for you to look at. And of course, go to our website and you'll see the covers and links to the Amazon and Kindle versions of all the books we mentioned today.
Plus everything else. The second I saw that cover, I went, and I end up doing it every year, Rob. I invariably nominate one or two of his covers for the Pulp Factory Awards. Mm-hmm. I have to. Okay, they're that good.
Yeah,
and
I'm with you. I'm right there with you.
You know what? This year's awards come. I'm going to be beating the drums for Mr. Shaw. Okay, it's been too long. He needs one of those awards because he so richly deserves it.
Definitely.
And they did. Let's not discount R.A. Jones's novel. It was something I hadn't expected. Editing it was a blasphemy. R.A. is such a great writer, and he likes to do unusual things. Okay, he never lets himself get pigeonholed in any particular genre. And when he first offered this particular title to me, I was excited about it. I remember my days being introduced to Poe my freshman year in high school and go, okay, maybe high school English isn't that bad at all. Right? Yeah, guys like this in here, all right. But anyways, so it's a great
interesting
book.
Guy, kind of a strange guy, but his writings were very, very influential. Just incredible.
Changed the course of American fantasy, detective stories, everything. The man was a genius, no doubt.
Yeah.
Okay, so then speaking of Mr. Jones, what comes the very following day? Please.
Exactly. R.A. Jones is on a roll here. In fact, he told me when I sent the book to him to final proof, he goes, well, this is going to make everybody look like I'm one heck of a busy writer. He says, when I'm really just a slothful writer just laying around doing nothing most of the time. So, jokingly, of course. But anyway, another one of his books, they were all in the queue, and these just happened to fall. The art and everything finally fell into place. So bang, 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 here's these 3 books. Well, the third one is called, it's part of a series from Jason Mankeller. This one's called Caged Fury. It's a Jason Mankeller Western by R.A. Jones. Features interior illustrations by Neil T. Foster with a gorgeous cover by another home run hitter, Chris Roding. This is the 3rd book in the series of the Civil War veteran turned bounty hunter with the tattoo on his left cheek looking like drops of blood coming down his cheek. So, and this is, the first one was Gun Glory. The second one was Comanche Blood. And this is the 3rd one, Caged Fury. So this is going to, looks like be an ongoing series from R.A. Jones. He's told me at different times he's always wanted to be a Western writer. Well, he's doing it now. He's written he wrote a Bass Reeves story, novella for us that was just fantastic. And now he's writing this Jason Mankeller series.
He knows the genre inside out. Okay.
Right.
And of late, aside from everything else the captain has on his plate and does, as you're well aware, for the last, I think, almost 25 years, I've been doing a review blog online called Pulp Fiction Reviews. And I have to tell you, Rob, I think especially in the last decade and bringing it closer and closer to modern times, seems like every succeeding year, we're getting more and more Westerns novels. All right. I think there's been a real resurgence in interest. I think American readers are going back to them big time.
Mm-hmm.
what's his name? Max Allen Collins.
Max Allen Collins
finished a series that Mickey Spillane had hoped to do one day called Caleb York. And he ended up writing 5 books from those notes and everything that Spillane left behind. And they were highly successful, okay? And then a good friend of yours and mine who got his start writing happily with Airship 27 is New York-based writer Terrence McCauley.
I'm glad you brought him up. I thought his came immediately to mind. He's writing some Western novels as well. So,
well, make sure everybody sees this, okay?
Yeah.
This is his latest series, the Jeremiah Halstead Deputy Marshal series. I just finished this yesterday. It's some of the best Western writing. He's already won some kind of a Western Writers Association award or whatever. So Westerns are big. And you know what? I read the Man Killer books, and it's there. It's that quality. I mean, you know, Harry could be going to these publishers with no problem at all right? I mean, he's a professional writer, but it's as good a Western series as anything on the market today. So if you like straight-up Westerns, and don't get me wrong, we do a couple of weird Western series here as well, keeping that old pulp flavor going. But the Man Killer books are straight-up Westerns. He's got a supporting cast that Jason eventually meets along the way, and each episode is so authentic and action-packed. If you love Westerns, please check this series out. There you go. All righty. And so those are the 3 books that we've gotten out in the past month. And as ever, we're going to go straight into what's coming next, all right?
Yeah.
And again, like Rob said, we've got a couple of books that are just like missing maybe one element.
Yeah.
All right. Just one little element and the book's assembled. And one of these that we've had for a while is Zeppelins Over Africa. Now, this is an alternate world adventure novel featuring a World War I of airships by one of our veteran writers, Gene Moyers. Artist Mike Harris has only one illustration to do. Brian McCullough has already done a really beautiful cover. So, you know, in my role as editor, sometimes I put on what I call my pest hat, okay, because then I become, you know, chief pest number 1. And as we have no deadlines, we have rules and policies here at Airship 27, no schedule, no deadlines, because, hey, you know, we can't pay these people what
we're
they're
not a traditional
worth,
publisher. We have no upfront money we can give people. It's all backdoor. So, you know, putting deadlines on people would be kind of silly. If they have another project that pops up that they can do to make more money up front, hey, jump on that sucker and come back when you can. We appreciate it. But
the truth is, that Mike has finished the first illustrations. He's done the first. Are brilliant. They're absolutely gorgeous. He's a gifted artist. So, you know, I pestered him. I keep. One of these days, I'm going to open my email, and Mike's going to go, okay, get off my back. Here it is. Okay. And Zeppelins Over Africa will be coming your way. And after that, Rob.
Yeah, and this one looks like it might come first, depending on whether Mike gets his LO in or not. But this one's called Strings Attached. It's a Sam Dunn mystery by Fred Adams Jr. This is the 3rd in the series of the musician turned detective. And this time he has to solve the puzzle of a very special guitar that once belonged to a famous blues man. Sam Salas is providing the interior illustrations, and the front cover is assembled from a picture very dear to Ron. So explain what's going on with the cover, Ron.
Okay, yeah, all right. The logic of this thing is that if and when you do a series, all right, you try to get some kind of uniformity with the looks of the covers, all right?
Right.
And so starting with Melody of Murder, all right, which was the first Sam Dunn book that Fred gave us, and I believe it's the first book he ever wrote after he retired from teaching English in college.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I don't know that for a fact, but yeah.
Right.
Cool.
So the book deals with a musician who once belonged to a band that basically after they parted company because of some volatile issues, all right, the band went on to stardom and everybody got rich except for Sam Dunn, who was still playing the one-night gigs and whatever. And so when the lead musician is murdered Well, naturally, the cops think he's got some kind of grudge or whatever, blah, blah, blah. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So here I go, right? I'm reading a straight mystery action thing about a musician killed in his studio. And I get this crazy idea, all right? Well, what if we show his hand, the dead man's hand, on a bunch of album covers with blood all over it? And so, okay, but where am I going to get this picture? And the more I thought of it, well, let's make it a real picture. And I get Valerie, my wife, and I lay down on the bedroom floor with albums and whatever, and basically use my own hand. Sent it to Rob. Rob doctored it up with the blood spots, and that was #1 Sam Dunn, a photographic cover. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Okay. A couple of years later, Blood is the New Black. Murder on an independent little film shoot where Sam is acting as the composer, and the girl is actually killed on camera. Ooh, okay, what are we going to go with then? Well, I go to Rob, we kibitz what it should be, and Rob gets this great cover of an actual camera. And in the lens...
A digital video camera, yeah.
Right, and in the center is the head of a girl screaming. It's brilliant. It's a beautiful... I love
like it's reflected in the lens of the camera. Yeah.
Right, and that's the kid's murder. Okay, she's being killed. Okay, so those are the first two covers. So now comes strings attached, all right? And I'm like, all right, so how do we do this? It's about a famous guitar that the blues singer left. He buys it at a pawn shop someplace, and now people are trying to kill him to get that guitar. Because apparently the blues singer was also a crook and died leaving stolen loot buried. Nobody knows where it is. And now Sam begins to suspect something in the guitar might be a clue to where the money's hid. All right, that's your plot. All right, and it's a great book.
Great, that's a great idea. I love it.
Oh yeah. So Ron's scratching what little hair he has left, and he's going, all right, but how do I make a realistic cover of this? And and suddenly I'm sitting there one day and I'm going through pictures on in my family album, right? And the light bulb goes off in my head. It was like a blinding flash, all right? Because I have 5 children. I have 3 boys, 2 girls. My second son, Kevin, who lives in Massachusetts, he and his wife, Melanie, is a musician. And he plays the guitar. And he has several guitars. And immediately I go to the family album, what he's been sending me the last year or so, and there's this picture of Kevin sitting down with one of his several electric guitars, right? And wouldn't you know, he has a beard and a mustache, just like the character. He's sitting up holding his electric guitar. And I went, holy smokes, Kevin could be Sam Dunn. No. All right, I get back to Rob with that image, and I found another image that would signify, death, something ominous. All right, it was like this green sheet that you'd find on a bottle of poison. The skull bones, don't touch this, it's deadly or whatever. I sent both images to Rob and said, here we go. We need to do another photo cover. We have to. It's part of the chain of the Sam Dunn mysteries. And Rob puts it together. I just absolutely loved how it came out. It came out absolutely fantastic. Now, we've got the cover. Rob did the mock-up of the cover, which you will see when the book gets published, hopefully within another month or so.
Yeah, I'm not going to put that up in the end credits. We're going to tease you with it and let you can see it. Hopefully, our next episode will be on the show.
So here comes the punchline of this whole little story that I think people will appreciate. And I hope Fred does when he finally, he hears this and he sees the book. All right. Now that the cover is there, I'm thinking to myself, well, I really need to ask Kevin for his permission to use his face on an Airship 27 cover, all right, his image in his guitar. So I write him, and I explain what we did in detail. That afternoon, I get a letter back from him, a message back from him. And is he concerned about how he looks in the image? Hell no. He writes back and goes, hey, Dad, that's cool. Which guitar did you use?
He was only concerned about the guitar.
I think he's got 3. All right, and he loves to play. He's super talented. At one time in his younger days, he had his own band, and recently he took classical guitar lessons. He loves the guitar. He loves playing it. So add to all this, and he turned around and said, "Hey," he goes, tell you what, he says, after the book gets published, send me those Sam Dunn mysteries. They sound cool. Okay. So he's definitely getting copies.
Yeah, and one point that you didn't bring up, but is the fact that Fred Adams was actually plays guitar and was in a band. So here's this college professor of English who's also a rock and roller. So he knows
time.
whereof he writes.
Yeah.
I look at the character as essentially he's writing about himself.
Oh,
he's taking his own experiences and putting them in this character,
exactly.
Sam Dunn,
yeah.
and I think that's really cool. It's a great idea. The plots he's come up with are excellent, and this is a great series. And thanks, Kevin, for letting us use your mug and your guitar on our cover. Appreciate it.
All right. So, hey, look, as usual, there are other little bits and pieces out there that will be winding their way to you. More Sherlock Holmes. Okay. Definitely.
That's on my agenda. That's in the queue in the studio to draw the next anthology.
All of which is leading up to the next one. I think is going to be volume 18. And I've got 18 and 19 filled. And we're leading up to what's going to be a spectacular volume 20. Our dear friend Ian Watson, who has been in every single volume of Consulting Detective, first brought this up to Rob and I as the concept of you should do something special. This is the 20th volume. And so we have. It's going to be a little bit bigger than most of our books. I can tell you one of the things that's going to happen in it, our dear friend Andrew Salmon from...
he insisted on coming back and doing a story with us.
He wants to do
he's done some other... Yeah, he's done some. He
was with us at the beginning. He was in the first volume 1, and he won the Pulp Factory Award for best short story of the year for that one. So I think it's only fitting that we have Andrew back to join us in the celebration of this really phenomenal series. And the other thing I want to bring our loyal airmen up to speed with, Rob knows a little bit about this already. We have been talking, going on maybe almost a year, not quite a year yet, about the adventures of Radio Rita. Okay. And the kicker is, initially we got 4 people, that jumped on to sign up to do stories. And Mel Odom, who also teaches himself, he's a professor at college, fell back. All right. He's getting Bass Reeves stories for us and other stories. And eventually, we were just waiting. We had the other 3 stories in-house. And I'm trying to remember, Teal, James Glenn, Gene Moyers, Samantha Leonhardt. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And you're going to do the illustrations when it's ready. And Chad Harden had agreed to do the cover. And of course, as everybody knows, Chad works regularly for DC Comics, makes his living with his art. And so as last year went on to winter and the holidays, nothing from Chad. Till finally, in the last 2 weeks, he and I had a email, a little chat back and forth. And I always knew Chad's heart was in the right place. The kicker was, I began to understand that it wasn't going to happen. So I wrote him and I say, hey, look, I'm releasing you from this. Okay, with absolutely no hard feelings whatsoever.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay,
it's like I said earlier about the paying gigs come first. Yeah, and he's just too busy with his paying gigs to help us.
Bills and put food on the table.
That's you got to do that. We understand that.
Yeah,
we're two retired guys. We're living on our pensions.
The last thing Captain Pest really wants to do is make people he loves feel bad. Okay.
Yeah.
So Chad got back to me and went, thanks for understanding, Ron. He says, I'm sorry it didn't work out. Hey, no hard feelings, like I said. So now
it would have been a great cover. It would have been nice to have a cover from him. But I'm glad he's that busy. To be honest, I mean, as a former freelance artist myself, we talk about feast and famine. That seems to be the theme of this episode. But that's the way freelance life is. You're either busier than hell, or it's dead, and you're scrambling to find the next project to do to make ends meet. So if you're a freelancer who's busy, hey, go for it, man.
Okay. So now
it doesn't happen every day.
I'm at a crossroads with thinking about this because we know a lot about loyal airmen, and a lot of people at the Pulp Factory who've seen your sketches and pinups and all this has been excited about this project. All right. So my next step was, all right, you know what? I'm going to write Ted Hammond. So I wrote Ted, and I brought Ted on board. Ted got back to me at the end of last month, the end of June, last week of June, and said, this sounds so cool. I've been reading about it, watching you guys on the podcast. He goes, yeah, I'm on board if you'll give me a month. He said, end of July.
Yeah.
I said, it's yours. We discussed compositions. Okay. I gave him 3 or 4 concept ideas and said, pick the one you like. Okay. The one that works for you. And you know Ted's beautiful woman. Oh, okay. So Rita's in good hands. In the meantime, in the last 3 days, Captain Pest jumped on Mel and said, come on, Mel. All right, I've got the other 3. So the joke is Mel is such a gifted writer, and I'm sure, Rob, as an artist, you've run into this kind of stuff. Mel gets back to me and goes, this character's driving me crazy, Ron. When I first said, yeah, I'm on board, which was like almost a year ago now, he goes, I thought I could whip this out. But he goes, every plot idea I come up with, by the time I sit down and write 2 or 3 paragraphs, it sucks. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Okay. So I'm reading this, right? And I know where he's at. I've been there. Yeah. So I wrote back and I said, Mel, could you be overthinking this? I says, well, she's a flyer. Right? She's a beautiful redhead flyer. Okay, that was our requisite. She's tall, green eyes, red hair, and she's a pilot. That's all. Put her in any scenario you want. All right. And I described what the other 3 plots were like a little bit to give him some. So he gets back to me and says this. He goes, well, won't they be writing the same thing they are? And I said, oh, they're not writing the same thing. I said, no. One of our stories takes place prior to in World War II. The other one takes place after World War II. Okay, it's not the same character. Everybody's
in fact, I'm looking to drawing the character differently for each story, because each story is a different setting, and there's no connection between them. This is just what kind of story would you like to see Radio Rita in,
exactly.
And then just do it. It doesn't. So she could be in the 20s. She could be in the 40s. She could be in the 60s. She could be in the 80s.
Exactly.
Anywhere in there. So I'm going to be drawing her different for each story, more than likely.
One of the things that I hope we will be doing with this, all right, and then this is to be incumbent on what Rob's time and schedule is when we finally hand them off the stories. But what I have been amassing, Rob, is with each story, I've been amassing images of the planes from that era that she flies, okay?
Right.
So that besides doing your regular illustrations, what I'd like is at the end of each story is to do some illustrating of the era, some of her supporting characters from each story. She had sidekicks, all right? Or in some of the planes that appear in these stories, all right?
Yeah,
to make it a little bit different.
Some little
more
spot illustrations.
Right.
Yeah.
So that being the case, Mel gets back to me and goes, Okay. All right. He says, key question here now. Here we go. All right. Because most of everything that we do in Airship 27, my preference, the old pulps is, he goes, can I do it in first person? And I wrote back and I went, you know what? I don't care. I want this book out. And you know what? I just said, we got to make it different. We have to make each story different. And
so there you go.
I went back. I said, it's yours. Finish it. I don't care. Write it. Mel's such a great writer. He got back to me. He says, hang in there. You'll have this within a week or so. So we're going to be wrapping up collecting Radio Rita eventually. And like I said, by the end of the month, Ted Hammond will have his cover. So hopefully as we wrap up July and August, maybe by the end of August, start of September or whatever, you might be seeing The Adventures of Radio Rita Volume 1. There you go. All right. So any other things you want to talk about, amigo?
Well, a couple of things. The first one is that our good thoughts go out to editor Audrey Parente of Bold Venture Press.
Yes.
She had a tumble and injured herself. She's out of the hospital and recovering at home. She says she now has a bionic shoulder, whatever that means, from a repair to her rotator cuff. Apparently she broke it or something. I don't know what the details are. So, Audrey, here's to a smooth recovery. Hang in there. We're glad to see you didn't get hurt even in worse. As we aged, falling down is not fun. You break stuff. So we're glad to hear that you're on the mend, and that hopefully I don't know if we'll see her at Pulp Fest or not. I imagine she's probably going to be hanging around at home until she gets a little further along. She's, on Facebook, she noted the fact she's in physical therapy, and so but all that. But what I heard about that, I thought, okay, yeah, we probably need to say something about this.
No, I'm glad you did. Sincerely, she posted. Rich took a picture of her after she came home. It was on Facebook. All right, God bless her. All right, because she's in the middle.
What's the other guy look like?
she's in the middle. She and Rich are in the middle of shipping out the contributors' copies to the new Zorro anthology, which Rob and I were contributors to. All right, and so. I know a few people as of online who've already gotten their copies in the mail. I'm looking forward to getting mine. The cover is absolutely gorgeous, and the list of writers and artists that contributed looks like a really stellar collection. Okay, which I wouldn't be surprised gets nominated for the anthology nominations for PFA awards. Come next year. So anxious to see that happening. What else are you working on right now?
What else? Well, I'm working on another page of Boston Bombers. That's on the. I'm looking over at on the drawing board right now. It's all pencil. It just needs to be inked up. I'm still doing the weekly podcast with Silverline Wednesday Wham. That's on at 7 a.m. Central Time on Wednesday nights. We run live for about an hour and a half. Trying to think what else is going on. Starting to get a lot of requests for my driving skills for the local Columbia College. Again, they've got me booked clear into next February. They've got dates picked out for me. So most of them are short jaunts. A couple of overnighters, but that seems to be my real life gig now. So it's fun to get out of the studio and get out and converse with people, with real people in person rather than Zoom. So since COVID, this has been my socialization right here. So it's nice to actually get out and talk to be able to touch a real person.
Windy City was so much fun this year. It was so much fun. Just that whole feeling of being out amongst people again. And we're doing in a couple of weeks. We're going to be in Pittsburgh for Pulp Fest, which
that was going to come up next on my other things. Yeah.
That's going to be a blast. Myself this past week, you want to talk about really being happy. I've been involved with a couple of comic projects, as you already know. In the top, three are Boston Bombers with me and you. The one I'm doing with the Italian artist Andrea Bermuda, Beyond the Stars, which just wrapped up its successful Kickstarter.
That's supposed to be shipping out to
they are shipping them out even as we talk now. So I'll be posting images of holding copies of that, and hopefully we'll have them at Comic Cons here in Colorado as the year wraps up. But the other one, which I'm also really excited about and have been doing for a couple of years with artist Cesar Feliciano, was Gin and Tonic, the spy thriller, okay, with international cast and whatever. And Cesar's almost finished issue number 1, penciling and inking. It's 39 pages long. He's got 2 pages to go. And the art is gorgeous. Some of the best stuff he's ever done. So as we were nearing completion, right, I was like, don't we want to do this in color? It begs color, right? And so I want to say about 3.5 weeks ago, Cesar goes, He says, if we do this by GoFundMe or Kickstarter, it's going to mean, more money and whatever. And I said, well, let me see if I can find an artist who will join our team. Okay, pretty much be like Andrea, myself, and Mike Belcher on Beyond the Stars, or you and I with, Boston Bombers, i.e. no money's up front. We just split what we make, what we sell at the end. Okay.
And make money on selling them at conventions. That most of the stuff we do for Redbud Studios, that's how you make your money. They don't sell a lot of them online, but you buy them at cost and then sell them.
Right.
That's how you make your money.
The new Black Lion graphic novel, all those kind of things. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So 3.5 weeks, I'm on every website you can think of, posting, right? And hitting a dead wall. I mean, people who get back to me, give me their page rates. I'm like, no. Read what I'm writing, okay?
Yeah.
And so I'm getting a little disheartened, Rob, right? And then out of the blue, our friend here in Fort Collins, the guy I call my unofficial protege, Todd Jones, right? Todd decides in the latest of his independent black and white comics, Wicked Awesome Tales, that he wants to reprint an old gargoyle story I wrote with Canadian artist Dario Carrasco.
Mm-hmm.
So we buy Dario, and Dario's, go ahead and do it. You and I have republished this thing in, Ron Fortier's Tales and the Macabre. Dario's all, anytime, go ahead, Todd. So Todd gets back and said, well, I see you have a poster from that story. Can I use that as the cover? Dario gets back and says, go ahead and do it. Okay. So I'm on Facebook. A week after the book comes out, Todd takes it to a convention, and all this good stuff. And I'm on Facebook, and I see the cover pop up, and who's posting the cover but colorist Matt Webb? And Matt says, here's something I did for Dario years ago. He goes, and they're republishing it, from Colorado. And I'm really glad to see this stuff out. I had fun working on that, those images. And I'm like, Matt Webb. I messaged him. I said, Matt, and you really put it out there, hard on your sleeve, buddy, all right, because he is easily one of the best colorists in this entire freaking business. And I explained gin and tonic to him and everything else and said, couldn't give you a penny, buddy, not a cent. So if you write back and tell me to go jump off a cliff, I get it. I'm sorry if I, embarrassed you, whatever. 2-3 hours later, get a message back. I'd love to work on that. I've been watching you post those pictures. They're awesome. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. I work with Dario like this. I work with so-and-so like this. I want to be a part of the team. The news, people. One of the best colorists in the world has now joined me and Cesar in producing gin and tonic.
Sometimes your luck is just crazy. What can I say?
Thank you. Thank you for the man upstairs. Always thank you for the man upstairs. Okay. I was telling somebody about this, and I was gushing about it the other day because, again, it's a complete package now because I had so much fun writing the scripts, and Ron's rules of creating. You got to have fun what you're doing because nobody else will have fun watching it, reading it, or whatever. And writing this series brought back a lot of the old tools that I'd use on the Green Hornet and other things years past, loving these characters. Next step along, here comes Cesar, and Cesar's art is growing in leaps and bounds from page to page to page. So much so that, we talk to each other and we inspire each other. And I'm thinking to myself, it's like we need one element left that makes this thing fly. And that was Matt Webb. That's Matt Webb. And in my daily life, in my daily routine, Rob, I spend a lot of time praying for my friends and family. Okay, I'm a person of faith, but I pray for other people. I really pray for myself, okay? Because the bottom line, buddy, is I've been so blessed. I have been so blessed. I've had this amazing career. I have an amazing family, relatively good health. You and I, we've done that roller coaster with bad, but we've come through. We've come through, okay? Every single day. There's no guarantee. So every new day is another blessing. And I rarely say, well, give me this, give everybody else. But I don't have the hubris to do that, buddy. I've been given so much.
When your cup overfloweth, it's kind of hard to ask for more,
So I don't.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Why? Right. Yeah.
Right. And so what happens? My young protege wants to do a book, comes to me, get the Dario, boom, 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 all the lines, and here we go. Okay, Matt Webb, who now I'm starting to get to know and start a relationship with. And I realized, thank you, the master manipulator.
Yeah. Oh, well, there's the old story about the guy who keeps asking God, why didn't you rescue me? And he goes, well, what about the guy that came by? He's on top of his roof in a flood. And then, what about the guy that came by in the boat and offered you a ride? He goes, well, I thought you were going to get me. He goes, who do you think sent the guy in the boat?
Amen.
I mean, come on.
Yep. Wake up, people. Wake up.
Yeah.
Okay, there are miracles happening all around us every single day. All right.
Okay. Now,
right.
one last bit about Pulp Fest. Since this is likely our last podcast before the show, if you're going to go to the show and you want any of our Airship 27 books, you need to get your list into me ASAP. We're recording this on July 12th, and I'm betting we'll need to get our order in this week to assure getting the books in time for the show. I still haven't done an inventory to see what we've got in under the table here to my left, to see what we have, see what we need to put in the mix too. So I will be putting in an order, and it'll probably be this coming weekend. So if you're hearing this after July 17th or 18th, I don't think we can order any books soon enough to get them for the show. But if you're seeing this now and you want us to have some books for you for the show, get your list into me before this weekend, the 17th or the 18th. I think that's Sunday and Monday. Then I can order them for you. If it's after that, you could try, but I really doubt. I'm going to try and place my order on the 18th. So I can order more, but they might not come in time for the show.
You and I have to have that whole exchange, because especially with these new books that we just released, we're going to want to have some. We're going to want to have some of them at Pittsburgh as well. Okay, all right.
But that's my last word on that particular piece.
And now
get your order in, folks. Now comes the stinker.
Go for it.
All right. Here's my joke. Claire was sitting in the waiting room for her first appointment with a new dentist. She noticed his degree on the wall, which bore his full name. Suddenly, she remembered a tall, handsome, dark-haired boy with the same name who had been in her high school some number of years earlier. Could he be the same guy that she had a secret crush on way back then? Upon seeing him, however, she quickly discarded any such thought. This balding, gray-haired man with a deeply lined face was way too old to have been her classmate. After he examined Claire's teeth, she asked him if he had attended the same school as hers. Yes, I did, he gleamed with pride. When did you graduate? Claire asked. He answered, in 1982. Why do you ask? You were in my class, she exclaimed. The man looked at Claire very closely. Then that ugly, old, bald, wrinkled-faced, gray-haired, decrepit man asked, what subject did you teach?
Yeah. Oh, there's a life lesson in that one, boy. Oh.
Cheers, folks.
Oh. Okay. On that note, Loyal Lemon. Hey, thanks for again joining us for this Madcap Hour. We really appreciate it. It's really a lot of fun to do. Rob and I enjoy doing this, and we're going to keep doing it as long as it stays that kind of fun. Thanks. That's to all your support. Okay. Tell your friends about the show. Definitely tell them about the books they're putting out. And here's hoping we see lots of you loyal airmen in Pittsburgh. Rob,
yes.
Sign us up.
And this is Chief Engineer Rob Davis signing off.
And as ever, Captain Ron is so happy to say, down ship.